everyone, welcome to this class. I have a sketch here. I am going to use masking fluid for watercolors. This is the test piece. So what happened here was I first wetted the inside, I guess the inside part without this petal right here and then these parts. And then I didn't paint these petals yet with that first step. The first thing was just to add colors for the stamens. So I used imidazolone yellow and then some of the sap green. I also used, I think, a little bit of some raw sienna. And then once the masking fluid was dry, that's when I started painting this petal right here. And then I went on to this one. So I started painting this one. Now, before I start wetting, I want to show you my palette. So I have imidazolone yellow here, which is primary yellow according to Holbein's color chart. And then we have sap green. And then I want to have like a different shade of yellow. So I have some raw sienna here. I don't think I'm going to add the quin red, but maybe I'll add, like, let's say some of the phthalo blue, and I already have next to it like some sap green. So don't be afraid to add an additional shade of like yellow. So what I'm holding is my long quill size 2 brush Songbird, and I'm going to wet pretty much, like, it's really not that important to go all the way to the end of the petals because you're only going to apply colors right here in this area right here and all the way here to this petal right here. So you don't want to wet this petal on the bottom. Everything else can be wetted. You don't have to like stress over like not going over even the petals. Like you can go even towards the background. You're only applying colors right here in the center. And here is imidazolone yellow. So there's my imidazolone yellow. What ratio? It's more like a milk-like ratio because I'm not going for like some super control like here. I don't need that much. This is also raw sienna. I do want the paint to spread. This is where I'm going to have these stamens, right? So I do want more like a between water and milk-like ratio now, but I'm grabbing also raw sienna. So what I have is raw sienna and imidazolone yellow. I'm grabbing a little bit of quin red. Then I would be adding some more red or yellow to change the shade of it. Now I did change the shade of yellow by just adding some of this quin red, but I also grabbed some raw sienna. And you can decide how much more you want to paint. But we also need a little bit of sap green here. So there's my sap green. And I'm going to add it here. I'm going a little like darker in a way when it comes to the yellow tones here for the stems. This is like a cream top-like ratio between water and paint. And I'm going to start applying it here. What's happening is that it's been a while, like a couple minutes, since I've been applying these, the paint here, wet on wet. So the water is like being absorbed by the paper. The paper is absorbing all this water, and the paper is drying. So now this is not as wet as it was like a couple of minutes ago. So when I do this cream top-like ratio, so that when I have this cream top-like ratio on my brush, the ratio between water and paint, I have more control now than I had a couple minutes ago. Hi everyone, welcome back. So everything has dried, and on top of that, once this layer dried, I applied masking fluid for watercolors right here in these areas for the stamens. And I'm going to show this to you in this version here. This is the test piece, and I already went like way ahead with this. So now here you can see a close-up of what it looks like after I already applied the masking fluid for watercolors. So you want to wait for the masking to be 100% dry. So even if it dries super fast, just give it another hour just to make sure. And I'm going to start wetting it. So I'm going to use a softer brush actually. So my softer brush, this is a quill, long quill size 2, Songbird. You also want to use clean water for this. And we're just going on the inside. On the inside, which I mean is, I mean by it is that I'm not going to touch these folded parts of the petal. And use the pointy part of your brush to get closer towards these edges. So the color I'm going to start with is yellow. So you need actually more water here because I guess it depends what brush you're using, but this is my imidazzlant yellow, and I do want to have quite a bit of water, so more like a water milk, I guess between water milk like ratio. That's because I do want the paint to spread here. If I didn't want the paint to spread, I would be using like a heavy cream like ratio, but I do want the paint to spread. Now I do want this to be vibrant, and I'm actually going to grab my Round 8 Gold 2 brush, this one. And what I'm going to do is quickly grab this yellow with some of the green, just to make it like a lime green, and apply it right here. But you know what? I didn't grab enough. And in fact, I didn't have enough water with it either. So I'm just going to reapply this right there. There's my imidazzlant yellow, ISO yellow, and then there's my transition, right? I want the transition here to happen now between the colors. So this is my red too now. Because I don't want to just jump right into the red. I need to create like a transitional color of a color that I already used, or colors, because I used ISO yellow and I used imidazzlant yellow. So the transitional color is my yellows and my red. And again, this I want to keep it lighter. And this seems like this side, like all this seems more yellowish. If you went too dark, just grab, or actually clean your brush, wipe it on a towel, make sure it's just a damp brush, and then just kind of pull the paint upwards. And another thing is, when it's too late to do that, because at some point it will be too late to just work with that damp brush, you can also re-wet it and add that second layer, and then you just add more darks, or mid-tones, mid-tones to darkest tones on the top to create that contrast, and you leave the bottom area alone. This way for sure, like, you'll have enough of that contrast and the bottom part will be lighter. So now this is the moment when I'm actually trying to grab more like a heavy cream-like ratio, and at the same time not trying to mix colors too much on my palette, so the colors do separate. So every time you're going back to your palette and you're grabbing this blend, right, you actually, in my opinion, this is my opinion, for me what works, right, it never works if I always have like the same color blend. Like sometime ago someone asked me like, how do I do it to have the same color mix all the time on my palette when I ran out, for example, of the color blend or mix? I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. I never try to grab like the same color blend on my brush. I always want to like change the ratio between the colors. So right now I probably have more of the ISO yellow than Perrault red and imidazzlant yellow, but earlier I probably had more of the imidazzlant yellow and ISO yellow than Perrault red. So that's my idea of like painting. And of course, all the teachers have different ideas. So that's why I gotta make sure you know this, that this is just what works for me. I never want to have the same color blend, like the ratio, the ratio on my brush. I always want to change that ratio between colors. So something like this. So now we can see like kind of like the petals getting this, we're getting that feel of that poppy petal, or the colors that we see in the reference. I just grabbed some ISO yellow with Perrault red, and I'd say the ratio, what is the ratio? It's like 50-50 basically now. I am at some point going to grab way more of the Perrault red. It's just right now what works is having this kind of shade of orange. Now I'm gonna pull through with that tip of my brush a little closer here, and this part I'm gonna press a little harder on the paper with the brush, and that's when I release more paint, but it needs a little more intensity here. I kind of slightly wipe my brush on a towel because I want to grab more like a heavy cream. Actually, this is more like a cream top. I'm actually gonna grab more water because I don't want this to be too dry, or the paint like feel like more like a between heavy cream and a cream top. and feel it out, because what works for me might not work for you. It just depends how damp or how wet the paper is. Now this is a little more reddish, and I want to add more red in the way, because again, I'm aiming to do this one with one layer, because I really felt like with that with these the test piece and my other little petals that I painted on that same paper, I felt like it just works better when it's one layer. But again, it's up to you. So here I have now, every time I'm grabbing this, I want to show this to you. It feels more like between heavy cream and cream top. Now you can see it. And it does feel more orange overall. And so you want to have basically like more maybe yellow if it feels more orange. I did have more red here, and it looks pretty too. So it just depends. And this is like a, I'd say like a damp brush almost. I don't have that much water. So this is dry, and the next step is to remove the masking fluid for watercolors. So it's right here. I'm going to use this pickup cement eraser. So if you ever get these, they're much better than just a regular eraser. So you actually do want to have like a rubber pickup cement eraser or something like this. And you can buy these through Amazon, from Amazon or one of the, I guess, art supply stores. So that's it for this painting. And please let me know if you have any questions. And I'm going to challenge you now to paint this one, the little one, on your own. And of course, again, let me know if you need help, if you have any questions. Thank you so much for taking this class with me.